Hey folks, Randy here with Doing Cut and Trim. You're just gonna have to deal with the air conditioner on full blast because, man, I don't know what it is about August in Maryland, but it is by far the hottest month in Maryland. It doesn't matter what temperature it is, it's just hot. Like, we've had hotter days. I think we had a couple 100-degree days in July. It's like a 92-degree day when I'm filming this. It's hotter than the 100-degree day. I am on fire. It is insane, man. Oh. That's not what I'm here to talk about, though. So, we're kind of in a weird situation, at least for me, with my clientele, where we're not in a drought. Not by any stretch of the imagination, but like some areas are getting rain and some aren't, and so it's putting me in a weird situation where I've got one city where most of the customers are getting skipped at least every other week, some more. I got one lady, I've only mowed her once in the last month, but we got other areas where I've never had to skip them at all. So it's just kind of like this weird thing, and I thought I would talk just for a minute about how I determine if I'm going to skip a customer's lawn or not. The first thing, the factor, is whether or not they've already weighed in on the topic. Obviously, so if a customer says, "Hey, skip me this week," then fine, we skip them. But then I had one customer. All right, it's a little cooled down, so we can turn that down a little bit. I had one customer that he said very specifically, "Do not skip me unless I tell you to." So, I don't care what it looks like, only skip if I tell you to. And I'm like, okay. So, there were several times where I cut his grass where it was like, you couldn't tell I'd even mowed it. I mean, you could tell I trimmed it, but it didn't even look mowed because the grass hadn't grown. But, I was like, hey, he asked for it, so okay. But for most of my customers, they let me make a judgment call. So, and I don't like to rip customers off. So I base most of my decision on what the front yard looks like. Because honestly, when you're cutting somebody's grass, it's mostly about aesthetics. So, they want their property to look good. And the weird thing about lawns, at least for me and for my customers, is the front yard and backyard don't even look like they belong on the same property. I don't know why that is, but like you can have a front yard like today, like the lady that I mowed once in the last month, her front yard is literally dead, completely dead. But she's on a corner lot, so like the main front, what you would consider the front yard, completely dead. Side yard is a completely different type of grass. And it looks beautiful. It's green, but it hasn't grown. And then her backyard is nothing but weeds. So it's like 3 different types of grass. And so when I pulled up to her yard today, the backyard needed to be cut. But it wasn't bad. Like, I would say it was probably in the 5 to 6 inch range, but it was weeds and, that was the backyard. Front yard, burnt to a crisp, nothing to cut. We would just be kicking up dust. And the side yard, you could maybe cut it, but I don't know that it would actually do anything, except put, tire marks in the property. So I made the choice to skip it because the backyard's not really visible from the street, and the front yard doesn't need it. The overwhelming majority of the property did not need it. The backyard's tiny. And so that's kind of how I do it. Now, I have another property that I did today where the front yard had not grown at all. Not at all. But the backyard did. And that guy's backyard, it grows fast. So to skip his backyard, it would be a foot tall the next time I went out there. And so because of that, I didn't skip him. So you just kind of have to just kind of play it by ear and just kind of figure out, like, feel out your customers. And so when we do skip, like, we'll send out an email to that customer saying, "Hey, I swung it. I came by, looked, didn't look like it needed it to me. However, if you disagree with me, shoot me an email. We'll get you back on the schedule this week. And that works perfect for my customers. And, you know, every once in a while, not often, but every once in a while, I'll get an email back saying, hey, yeah, please put me back on the schedule. And we do. No big deal. You know, or sometimes it'll be a little bit more terse, like, oh, yeah, it needed it, you know. Or, duh, I didn't need it. Or, you know, every time something might get a little weird. But for the most part, people are fine. And, you know, but that's kind of how we do it. But we have that outlined in the service agreement that we have our customers sign, and we make sure that it's very clear in that agreement, so that there's not we don't end up we don't find ourselves in a situation where a customer's like, it didn't need it, you did it anyway. Well, in our service agreement, it says very specifically, we'll skip a cut if you want us to. Not a problem. Just make sure you let us know, you know, before we go out that morning. It's not a big deal for us to skip your property. So, like, we don't make skipping a big deal. There's nothing to fuss about, you know, if a lawn doesn't need it. But but we also make it clear in our service agreement, which if you guys have seen the service agreement video, you'll see that's in there. If we get there, then we decide whether or not it needs it or not. It's up to our judgment. We leave a lot, and, you know, so if they're going to leave it to our judgment and we decide to cut it, I don't want to hear it, you know. You left that decision up to us and we made it. So that's kind of how we handle it. I feel like there's more to it, but I'm at the next lawn and I can't think of anything else to say on the topic. So I hope this was helpful to you. I got to get to work, so I've only got a couple left and then I'm done for the day. Whew. It's Randy with Dolan Cut and Trim. Have a good one.